Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the Red Baron by Tom Daniel. It's a 1/24 scale kit from Monogram, number 85-4258, that's been re-released over the years probably a dozen times, but it's a quintessential Tom Daniel model and almost recognizable by everyone. The kit contains 63 molded parts in red, and it has chrome-plated parts with black vinyl tires. Like I say, it's been re-released over the years, and the molds are showing their age. There's some flash that will have to be dealt with. But it features a custom 6-cylinder engine and a miniature Fokker triplane kit. Now, here comes the famous Red Baron. Now, this custom rod was once displayed nationwide in a full-size form. And with its chrome spiked helmet design and radical stance, this kit has stood the test of time. There's, like I said, quite a few parts where there's some flash, and you'll have to address those. And the chrome doesn't seem to have a bright polished look to it, but it still manages to make for an awfully really cool looking helmet and hood or top for the vehicle. Once again, the tires now are kind of generic and with no brands, and the airplane is pretty basic and goes together easily. However, the direction sheet hasn't changed at all. It's the same old style Monogram instructions, and it's a pretty basic model, so just using the direction sheet, you'll have to test fit everything to make sure the build goes together properly. Here are the contents of the kit, and as you can see, the decals are pretty basic, but they're very nicely done with little carrier. You should know that we'll probably use Model Master liquid cement for most of the construction, occasionally some super glue for strength, and if there's some window glass, a white glue so that it dries clear. For the decals, sometimes you may need to use some of the setting solutions available in the aftermarket, but probably not with this kit. Also, though, remember to use the safety suggestions from your manufactured products for anything that you see described here in the review. To begin, we grouped all the parts that were going to be painted red, and then gave them some primer, and then sprayed them with some Krylon red spray paint. The kit's molded in red, but painting makes it a much more even finish and really helps bring out the finish on the build with nice, clean, and even coats of paint. Now, usually I use the same brand of primer and paint and clear to prevent issues, but what you really would like to do is just test your paint out on some spare plastic, even a plastic spoon, to make sure that there's no issues of any kind of interreaction with the paint. So if you're not sure about it, go ahead and give that test a try to make sure that you don't have any problems later. The triplane here is made up of 14 pieces. It's very simple to assemble. You can use the instructions, but everything pretty much fits where it should be, and there's places to place the parts, so this is not a real issue. So I just painted it with straight paint and let it bite in there to give it a kind of a canvasy finish, and of course no clear coat to give it any shine, because the original plane was made out of canvas, even though it was painted. So I painted the wheels with some flat black bottle paint, some testers, and the guns and the props were painted with some silver paint, and the blades of the prop were given a light coat of brown craft paint, leaving the brush strokes visible for a wood grain look. I gave that about an hour to dry, and then I used some Minwax stain pen in the brown colors, the darker browns, to kind of streak the propeller to give it more of a wood grain look. So the rest of the airplane went together pretty well, and then I applied the decals, and once that was done, it looked pretty good. There's a little highlighting there on the engine cylinders and the machine guns, but overall it's a pretty cool little airplane accessory for your model. So I continued on with the decals, and the bearing body and the helmet decals were put on at the same time. And then each decal was cut from the sheet and given about 30 seconds to soak in some warm water, and then removed and use some more warm water on the model itself to place them, and then kind of just use a smooth cloth or a Kleenex to smooth out any air bubbles trapped in there or any water that's trapped in or on the decal. Now, although they laid down pretty well, the decals on the chrome helmet had a little silvering around the edges, and normally you'd try some solvents to prevent that, but it might damage the chrome, so I was concerned about that. On the painted surface, the decals looked pretty good though. And over chrome, it's kind of tricky. This was typical. Some research should be done to help with this problem, but I've not been able to find a cure for silvering on chrome. So the engine is really the first step of construction, and the two pieces of the block will go together just fine. And that was painted aluminum with silver bottle paint, and once dry, given a coat of thin flat black paint, which we call black wash, to bring out the highlights of the details. The chrome header piece there has a mold line running through the ends of the pipes there, and they need to be sanded down smooth with some emery boards. After I had sanded those nice and flat, I gave them a tinge of red paint to set them off as a custom header. So to give the header pipes an appearance of having been heated up like regular pipes, they got decorated with some red, orange, and purple Sharpies. And this was done just going over the chrome and give it a light brush of thinner to make the colors flow and kind of meld together. It doesn't look as heavy, and it looks like there's still chrome underneath. So you can complete the engine. It goes together pretty well. And just test fit the parts. It was important to test fit and scrape any chrome from the gluing joins so that we got a good bond there. And when it was done, it looked pretty cool. So the seat tub, of course, was painted same red as the body color, and then the padded leather area was painted with some flat black bottle paint and with a nice soft brush. And then paint heavily. If you do that, you get a leather texture. So the gauges were finished with silver bottle paint and then highlighted with a Sharpie marker. So you can place the seat tub in on the frame rails there, and it goes on there easily enough, but they're not it's not really clear where to place it. So just fit it in there, and you'll be able to see and feel kind of where it sets. So make sure it's all in place there, and glue the joints. Scrape off any paint to make sure that you get a good join there where the seat tub meets the inner body, and just use enough to attach it so that you don't damage the plastic. Good old Tester's slow setting glue here was used to make sure that the part went in place properly. I added a little custom touch by covering the firewall with some foil, a gold tinted foil, and this was just my choice. The chrome on the firewall looked pretty bad, so I covered it with some nice gold foil to make it look better, and then it fits really nice up to the body frame there. Once the firewall's in place, the engine was placed into the chassis, and the fit was a little bit strange, but it goes to the engine mount quite nicely. So just fit that into position. Remember to scrape off chrome and paint for a good joint. The rear suspension is pretty neat. It's got 6 parts with a lot of detail. But again, the directions don't give a good look at how it goes together, so test fit everything before you assemble it, and it will look like this when you get it done. And then the 2-piece rear end housing slides between the axle and goes to the holes through the holes of the housing. So it didn't need any glue here, just squeezed it in, and I moved it enough to locate the drive shaft to the tranny. There's pretty good mounting location for the leaf springs, and they go on to the location nicely. So then have the shocks are really small. They have some locating points, but don't break them once they're in there. So they line up good, but use some slow setting glue so you can move them around to adjust into position. The fuel cell does go together well, but it's 2 pieces and split right down the middle. So you're going to have a seam there. There's really no way to get around it unless you strip off the chrome and putty this and paint it, or get it re-plated. So getting them attached to the frame rails is a little bit of guesswork. It doesn't fit really tight. Just make sure it's in the right on the right, so that the side that's supposed to be seen is out. And so the gluing point is small, so I suggest you scrape off any contact areas there and use some super glue to make sure that it stays into position, and hold it there until she's glued. The radius rods and the tie rods are really fragile, so it takes some careful handling to take them off of the trees, and be careful when you're scraping chrome off at the glue points. They all fit nicely right where they're supposed to on the front axle ribs. Now we can add the small pieces that go into the interior. The shifter, the steering wheel, and the steering post, and the dash, they all fit in pretty nicely in there. And there are clear locations for the shifter and the column, but the dash needs some test fitting before gluing, so that you can properly position that where it looks like it should go. The drag link location is another story. There's no placement photo and the directions for it, only a picture of the side of the body panel. Now setting it to the axle, it states to rest it on a flat spot on the axle's top, but it really looks bad once it's on there. So I did a little bit of scratch work here, and I took a piece of the chrome tree and cut it off and sized it to the drag link's front, and then I made a bracket so that it looked like that it would be attached to something when it's placed on the axles. The radiator and the headlights fit together pretty well, and they are placed into the body cleanly. The grill was given a little detailing with some thinned black wash, and then thin paint was then dabbed into the recesses, and then on the top areas there, just wipe it off with a paper towel. And go ahead and glue the headlights into place. You can use some white glue for that. Just make sure you scrape off some chrome. The tires and wheels are pretty basic, but they fit the model. The inside of the back part was painted flat black so that it would show through the slots in the front side. And they weren't scuffed because show cars generally don't have engines that run, so their wheels and tires just always look new. When I went to place the tires on, they're actually kind of tough to put on there. They had slots in them for placement, but they were too small. The holes for the wheel backs had to be cut out a little bigger using an X-Acto knife blade, so that after that they went in just fine and looked pretty good. Just don't take out too much so that they fit snugly when you get them on. We can add the machine guns on the side now. Just scrape some of the chrome off for the gluing points and fit them onto the side holes there. You might want to detail that with a little black wash for the recesses to give it a little highlighting as well. I used the good old-fashioned tube glue here to set the helmet into place. It's the easiest part of the whole build, believe it or not. It just fits right onto that ledge there at the top of the back of the body. So go ahead and put it into place, and like I said, I used some tube glue sparingly to make sure that it didn't haze the plastic. Oh, there you have it. This is the quintessential Tom Daniel kit, and was actually a full-size show car that went out on the circuit back in the day. You put one of these on your shelves with the little companion triplane, and you'll always get comments, and people will notice it. It's still a nice looking kit when it's done. Yes, you could do more to detail and customize it, and even make some of the parts look better, like the gas tank, etc. But overall, right out of the box, it's a beautiful looking model, and if I were you, I'd go ahead and buy one and put it on my shelf. We hope you like this premium step-by-step model kit review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can find us on Facebook and at our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.